Hey guys, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles. As you'll notice, I've still got my beard going. I can still rule the junior high locker room with this much facial hair. This is going to be the last videos you're going to see because I'm going to have to shave it off the end of this month. I want to take a quick moment before we get rolling today and say thanks to all of you who did donate. We did raise, I think, over $120. I have to go through and compile all that. So we're going to actually give some kids a Christmas with it. So, again, that's really awesome. One of the things I love about this YouTube is we've been able to do some charity work and do some things like that. We know we've done some charity snake sales, and you guys have been so great about that, and I love being able to take this hobby and help others. So that's awesome. But let's go ahead and get rolling for today's topic, and we're not in my usual location, right? We're in the back of our shop at Manhattan Reptile World. And what we kind of have is, well, we have Olympus reptiles, and you see my house all the time and all of our snakes there. We also have some breeding that happens here at the shop, which it's kind of weird how that all works, but you know, it's kind of how we all came together, is to keep the shop going because it supplies food and some customer base and some exposure while we're able to run our snakes. Now, I've got Colin here, who you should have seen on Classy Herps from the time he was like, you know, this tall until he's all grown up now. And he's still doing this, which is really cool. I wish I would have started as young as he did, but alas, I didn't. And he's going to talk to us about some of the projects that we've got going on here at Manhattan Reptile World, because he handles most of the ball python collection here the same way I handle ours at home. So what's the first thing that you've got out?
Yeah, so one right here that I'm trying to focus on animals that you guys don't have at your store. So this right here, or at your home, this right here is called Mardi Gras. And I've noticed this animal has changed quite a bit over the year and a half that I've had it. When I got it, it was just like a dark red. Now it's kind of fading into more of a yellow. But you get this when you cross a yellow belly with asphalt and an enchi. And the asphalt is kind of a more obscure gene, and so not a whole lot of people are working with it, but it's really cool when you cross those three together and you get this kind of stripe down the back with the red on the sides. It's just a beautiful animal that you don't see a lot.
And the additional enchi is what makes us a Mardi Gras. Otherwise, you'd be using it'd be a highway, correct?
Yeah, it'd be a highway.
And so you get these highway ball pythons, these freeways that you hear about, and they're all using asphalt, or I believe it's gravel. That decides highway or freeway. Yeah. One of the cool things about these animals and why you don't see as many of them is they're very, very hard to work with, because the yellow belly, it acts like a super. It's a lilic. So when you breed this, it's going to either pass on yellow belly or it's going to pass on asphalt. The problem is picking the asphalt out from the yellow bellies. They look so very similar that I don't know of anybody that's come with a direct way to like this is asphalt and this is yellow belly. Yeah. So that makes it very hard to move the offspring, and so you're selling, you know, possible yellow belly, possible asphalts. When you get it right, you get an amazing looking combo.
Which I will say, because also the homozygous version of the yellow belly and the homozygous version of the asphalt look different than they do combined together when you get the yellow belly asphalt. So it is very weird how those genes are allelic to each other, and they kind of work in weird, really weird ways.
But it makes such a cool, different looking ball python. You can see the name comes when you talk about highways or freeways, because of it looks like lines on a highway. You know, you get a passing zone and a no passing zone. Now, if you got a Mardi Gras, do you have like a Fat Tuesday too or anything?
No.
Oh man, we need to make one called the Bourbon Street. Just get the whole kind of theme rolling. Yeah. So show me another project that you got here that we're not working on at our house. Once that thing cooperates. Another
gene that not a whole lot of people are working with right now, because there was a little bit of a scare in it, like genetically a while back. But all of the kinks are all kind of worked out of the project now. These are two animals. I'll just show them one at a time here. This is the desert ghost gene, and this isn't just desert ghost. This has pastel and pinstripe in it as well. And so you can see the difference. I'm going to grab just a standard lemon blast out real quick. So this is a pastel pinstripe without the desert ghost, and you can see what the desert ghost does to that. So these are the same snakes, except this one has the desert ghost gene. So drastically like blows it all up yellow, makes it really faded looking, kind of even changes the pattern a little bit. So and look at the head on that.
The other thing I see is it's super clean.
Yeah.
Just super, super clean.
Yeah.
And one thing with the desert ghost that I want to make sure we point out is that it's not a desert and a ghost. Desert ghost is one gene. And the desert project, because there's also, this is where this namings get all confusing. Because you got desert ghost, you got ghost, and you got desert. Okay? The desert project, in my opinion, is kind of a dead project because the females have breeding problems. They're going to all go egg bound. You cannot breed female deserts. Yep. But desert ghost,
it's a different
gene altogether. So you can. They don't have those issues. But people would hear that. Sometimes they think it's a desert space ghost. You know, like two separate genes, like a homozygous with a heterozygous. And this isn't. This is a a true desert.
Yeah.
Sorry, a true desert ghost, which is a recessive, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's its own gene. So I want to be really clear on.
So here's another one that has that desert ghost gene also. And this one is basically the same thing, except if you remove the pinstripe and you replace it with yellow belly. So it still has the pastel in it, so it is a pastel yellow belly desert ghost. And you can really see the contrast between the black and the yellow on that, which I love that.
It looks like a firefly on steroids with
It
darker
does.
blacks.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, if you could make like an even more contrasting firefly, that's pretty much what this is. Yep.
And the Desert Ghost is one that I probably will eventually get into, because this is a project that excites me because it makes that pretty clean animal. You know, and I'm not a guy who breeds for 15 genes. They're all trying to crawl out.
Trying to get out of their tubs.
I'm a guy that wants to breed when I open the tub and I see that animal, I go, oh my god,
Wow.
that's what I'm after. So that can make that happen. So Desert Ghost, I look at that and think, man, you know, like, here, can I pull that one back out again? You guys know me, right? Let's take this, picture Xanthic in that. Done, right? You'll get your true white and black that I want, especially if you added, say, another pastel gene, so which now I'm talking like 5 genes. So you have a super pastel yellow belly Xanthic Desert Ghost.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
you'd have your black and white snake, which for me is like the holy grail of ball pythons. So that's where I see anything that brightens and cleans, to me, has a value for the projects I want to do. But I know you've got one more project here that I'm sure everybody's going to be really interested in.
Yeah, one thing you were talking about genes that are like really pretty on their own. This is one that not a lot of people are working with, that when I see it, and this is just a Toffee, that when you see that, it's just kind of one of those animals that you just kind of look at for a minute, because like it's just a single gene, but it's pretty amazing what it does to an animal, given that dark pattern with the yellow.
They always make me think of bananas that don't get freckles.
Yeah, they look kind of like a weird combination between a banana and a caramel, sort of, to me anyway.
Yep. And they don't have kinking issues like the caramel does.
No.
Other cool thing with Toffee is it's allelic with albino. So, and Toffee and candy, I do believe, are the same thing. And there's some debate on that. You kind of get back into that butter lesser thing. But if you breed this to an albino, what you'll get is a whole clutch of Toffinos, which is really kind of neat. And then when you breed that Toffino, you can make albinos and Toffies. So it's pretty neat what all you can make with them, or you can go straight Toffee to Toffee and kind of keep that almost caramely albino look.
Yeah, we're trying to just do the Toffee to keep that. So that's kind of our project, where we're going with this anyway.
And see, I'm going more towards the Toffinos on mine, because I like that it brightens it up a little bit, so you have a brighter purple in there. So that's kind of where I'm working on, as opposed to being kind of more of a darker caramel color.
Yeah.
But this is a project that we filmed a little bit about. I know once in, where were we at, Kurt? Florida. WHS had hatched the first ever pastel and super pastel Scaleless, and this is kind of what you'd start a project like that with. So I'll let Colin kind of talk about this animal.
Yeah, so this is the original male right here that me and my partner Dave bought, and this is one of the original Scaleless heads. We got this, obviously originally came from Brian over at BHB Reptiles, and this is our original male, like I said, that we have started breeding with all of our females, and we had a pretty successful season with him. He turned out to be quite a stud. We bred him to almost like, I think, 6 females, and they all laid really good clutches, and so we had very good odds with how his genes kind of splayed out into different things. And one of my most exciting projects that I've got going on right here right now, actually the male looks a little bit better, but I kept a pair of these lesser Scaleless heads. And his head, one thing I would like to note is the Scaleless head is highly variable like piebald, and so not all of them are going to look the same. You're going to see some, I hatched out that were literally missing one scale on their head. But the way I knew it was because they had the split scale right here, which only Scaleless heads, this last scale right before the vent is always going to be split in half. Well, if it doesn't have the Scaleless head gene, that's going to be a solid scale.
And that's really important, because I'll tell you what, guys, I have seen it. It's out there. I've had people send me pictures and ask about it. I found this snake on Craigslist, and it's a Scaleless head that somebody is trying to sell for really cheap. Is it a good deal? Ball pythons will rub, or they'll have a bad shed occasionally. If they have a little bit of a bad shed, or if you get one that rubs, what they'll tend to do is rub some scales off the top of the head. So if you don't know what you're looking at, you can look and think, oh man, I got this lottery-winning Scaleless head.
This is the female, and she's not as expressive
Right.
And you have to remember, they have the same father, so they got that gene from the same male, so there's no difference there. It's just, like I said, some of this male right here was a more high expression, but I actually had one that was a pastel, I believe, that almost its entire head was scaleless. But from the same father, I also had one that was literally missing a scale. So it's a weird gene that we're not really sure how it works yet.
But if you're ever in doubt and you're looking at one and you want to know, check that tail. That way you can make sure it's not just an injury on the snake or some old scar tissue on the snake that makes it appear like it's missing some scales on the head when it's actually just scar tissue. So look at that tail. I can also tell you that when you look at something like this, first one that's just rubbed the scales off, this looks like smooth skin. There's no damage to the skin whatsoever. And it's pretty typical to see a few spots of scales in the middle like that, and the scales tend to be smaller. Now you're going to talk about the difference between a normal lesser, aren't you?
Yeah, so this is the
something
mother.
Colin noticed.
This is the mother of this snake right here. So nobody really said anything to me about this until I started hatching out babies and we started noticing it ourselves. But if you look at the pattern of this snake and the pattern of its mother, they look different. The scales themselves actually look a little bit different too. The scales appear to be a little bit smaller, and the pattern just seems a little bit off, almost like inchy. So it doesn't only affect the scales on the head, but it definitely has an effect across the rest of the animal. In my personal opinion, I think I have a decent theory going on that it acts very similarly to the gene in bearded dragons that makes for a scaleless bearded dragon or a silkback. So everybody knows about like a leatherback bearded dragon that has the reduced scale size. So their scales are basically just a weakened version of the original, and I believe that it's the same gene going on here in the ball pythons, that they have basically like micro scales, and then when you get the homozygous animal, there's zero expression of scales.
So there's a couple ways you can look and try to make sure that you know what you're getting should you decide to jump into this project. And, you know, like anything, and you heard me talk about these, as a matter of fact, these are kind of the guys I was talking about when I did that video about, you know, how prices change on ball pythons, and people get all upset on they losing on the mark on the scales because it drops so much. But am I correct in saying when I said that even though that market kind of collapsed, even though it didn't really collapse, you guys still made your investment back plus a good amount,
yeah, in
right?
the first season. Yeah, and I got to keep a pair of things that I cannot wait to breed, you know.
Absolutely.
We put these together, I think there'd be, my math is correct, a 1 in 8 odds of hitting the scaleless blue-eyed leucistic, which I still don't believe has been done yet. Might be by the time I get there, but
Right.
It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. And I think your odds are, I think they are spot on. I'd have to run it, but it sounds right to me. So that's just the thing I want to point out, too, is when you dive into a project like that and you say, oh, I spent so much money and now they've dropped this much, you can't get disheartened because you got to just do the math and you're still going to come out okay as long as you're able to market your animals and you're able to produce animals. You're going to be just fine. So you got to kind of rein that terror in a little bit. It's going to be all right. The sky isn't falling, I promise. And you guys did really well with these, right?
Yeah. So like, just for an example, if you were to buy a scaleless head, a normal scaleless head for $2,000 one year, you raise it up, you breed it, don't expect to sell your scaleless heads for $2,000. That's just unrealistic. The market has devalued by then because there's more of them. It's supply and demand.
Absolutely. You're probably going to be looking at a fourth of that.
Yep.
But then if you sell 4 babies, you made your money back. If you sell 8, you doubled it. Yep. So you can't even do that on the stock. You could have bought Amazon years ago. Okay, if you bought Amazon years ago, maybe you did do just as well. I'm probably in trouble for saying the bad word on a Google website, but we'll get over that. All right, Colin, anything else you really want to show us?
I think there was this one up here that you kind of wanted to show real quick because it's kind of a different version. It's in that same complex as what we were just talking about there. So in the lesser, butter, Mojave, all those things, there's this one other kind of out of the picture one that not a lot of people are working with, and this is called bamboo. And like I said, it is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, so if you breed 2 of these together, the homozygous or superform does look white with blue eyes. And if I remember right, it's one of the cleanest blue-eyed leucistics that's out there. They have almost 0 markings on their body with just perfect blue eyes. So kind of a unique one. The pattern is definitely different than most of the other things in that complex. You can see probably the most different looking from a normal, but cool snake.
The color really reminds me of lesser, but you can really see the difference he's talking about right in here. That whole pattern is linked up together. It's all kind of just melted like into one instead of having separate alien heads, which is really kind of neat. So this is something I don't have in my collection at all, is bamboo. And it's pretty cool, so I can't wait to see the projects that we do here with the bamboo. Really neat.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to crossing her with our pastel Mojave So we've got breeding in here with our blue-eyed leucistic right now, and kind of seeing what comes out of that when you cross the phantom to the bamboo. Because
phantom and mystic are the same. They're like butters and lessers, but they're part of that complex as well. So this, I mean, you guys know we tried to make the mystic potions and we completely whiffed on it, which would have been mystic to why am I drawing a blank right now, Colin? What did I put to make mystic potions? Mystic to Mojave.
Yeah,
there we go.
Mojave, yeah.
Woo! I was sucking there for a minute, and we missed. So that mystic, or in this case phantom, to bamboo should be a allelic, and it should produce something pretty cool.
And that's the Mojave, just for reference. Darkness.
Yeah, which always kind of strikes me funny that they're allelic with lesser because they look vastly different.
So one others that you guys might not have that's in that, she's coming out, in that same complex. I've never even heard of this until I got this. This is called a Russo.
I have heard of Russo, but I don't keep Russo.
Yeah. It's the most normal looking to me. It almost just looks like a faded normal, but
very much so.
If you breed two of these together, the homozygous version is supposedly the cleanest blue-eyed leucistic. They call it a white diamond. I don't really know why it got its own nickname, but Super Russos are another in there. So,
and I've heard that same thing, that the white diamond is the cleanest of the bells. And I've kind of gone super lesser on my bells because super lesser bells are extremely clean, and I prefer what lesser does in combos over Russo.
This is a super lesser.
Yeah, this is an adult super lesser. Well, that one's got kind of a weird stripe down its back.
Slight stripe down the back.
Which most super lessers don't usually tend to have, I don't think. You usually see a stripe on ivory, but ivories will not have blue eyes. So this is definitely not an ivory.
No.
They have the black eyes. So, all right. Well, Kurt, you got any questions?
Colin, what's the most you've ever spent on one ball python?
Definitely that Scaleless head. That was an investment, but it was a worthwhile one. It was a project that, ever since I saw it on Brian's channel to begin with, and seeing those pictures of that Scaleless ball python, it's been something I've been dreaming about for years. And so, regardless of the price tag, it's something that I really wanted to get in, and I was very fortunate to get in towards the beginning of it to where I could still make a profit on it and see some of the cool results. So,
you know, one thing I always say when you talk about an investment level snake like that is, if you're in your first year or two of breeding, I personally don't recommend going that route because there's so much pressure on you when you do that, and hoping that you're successful. And if you're not, I think it's kind of good to get your feet wet, get a few seasons under your belt, get used to pairing snakes, get used to producing eggs, get used to taking care of eggs, and all of that before you jump into a major investment project. But once you've got your feet wet, and Colin, like I say, he's been doing it since he was a teenager. Literally, I remember watching some of his videos on Xanthic stuff when I was first looking at breeding. Here was this 14-year-old kid, I think it was, teaching me stuff. So it's pretty cool to do. So he already had his feet wet when he jumped into this project. So there's a lot less fear when you've got some experience, which I'm not trying to talk anybody out of doing something, but in my personal opinion, the way I did things is I knocked a few clutches out, a few simple things, and just got over kind of all those initial quirks. So I had that confidence and knew what I could do before I would jump into something like the Scaleless head, or even something, anything on the more expensive level. But once you're ready and you feel that confidence, you can do great things by jumping into a project if it's what you want to do. Absolutely. So really cool. So you pulled out one more animal.
You work your way up in it, like Matt was saying. You don't start off with the big stuff. You work your way up. And as a breeder, there's a way that you could do that. So out of that Scaleless head project that I was just talking about, I did spend some money on that. But at the same time, one of my Scaleless heads I was actually able to trade for this. I didn't spend a penny on this piebald banana. So I essentially, and I also got the Scaleless head for free because I produced it. Not really for free, but you kind of know what I mean. So I essentially got this animal for free because I was able to produce my own. So that's one way as a breeder you're able to get into more projects, because when you produce animals that other people want, you're able to trade. And that's how you kind of work your way into different projects and work your way up.
And even if you don't want to trade, we always talk about how Kurt and I don't really ever get paid. We take that money and we put it away and we reinvest it to our collection. So if I wanted to invest in a $2,000 snake, well, I'm not really opening up my wallet going, oh my God, this hurts. I'm just taking money that my snakes have made and I'm investing in it that way. So it doesn't feel I don't feel that pressure like I'm taking money away from my family or taking money away from my house or doing the things I need to do, that I'm putting this risk out there because the snakes have their own money, they make their own money, and I use their money for them. It's pretty cool that way. Yeah. All right, any more questions, Kurt?
No.
All right, Colin, anything you want to add before we go?
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure if you get a chance, do all those little button clicks and things. And we'll see you really soon. And actually, I'm going to do one more video with this while I got it. Then after that, you're going to start seeing me back to all like clean shaven. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.